So what was it like growing up in the Pilkington household?
I think it was quite a standard upbringing. I think, or maybe everyone probably thinks they had a standard upbringing, don't they? Um, but yeah, I grew up with my younger brother, who's 18 months younger, mum and dad. We grew up I grew up in a place called New Malden, which is kind of between Kingston and Wimbledon, just kind of Surrey / Southwest London. And yeah, I guess it was quite a close family unit, just very supportive. And yeah, and up until the age of 18, we all kind of were fairly close. And then we kind of went different ways in terms of me and my brother going off. He now lives in Sweden. So we've kind of moved around and spread out a bit. But I'd say we were quite a close and supportive family growing up, really.
What did your brother go on to do?
Is he into training as well?
No, he was quite into sport when we were at school. And then he went off traveling and kind of became a bit like a traveler, hippie kind of guy. So he's he's vegan, very environmentally conscious, loves living out of a backpack. Like he's done tours of the world on his own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's been to, a lot of places. Eventually he met a Swedish girl when he was in Croatia, I think. And so then that basically led to him, moving out to Sweden. He works at the moment, I think as within a school, kind of doing some support work there. But yeah, he's dotted around all over the place.
Has that ever tickled your fancy?
The traveling stuff, to a point, but I think I'm maybe just a little bit too high maintenance for proper traveling. I've done backpacking kind of style stuff for maybe up to about 3 weeks at a time. But then I like going and seeing new places, but like slumming in a hostel and out of a backpack and stuff, there's only so long I can do that for, I'll be honest. I'm a bit too soft. So yeah, I like to go see new places, but have a nice bed, my own room, that kind of thing.
You can see the same places on Instagram.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, no, I think I've done okay in terms of traveling, but he puts me to shame for sure. Like I said, he did a year on his own around the world, listening out of a backpack, covered off a lot of places. But yeah, it's something I enjoy doing, but yeah, not necessarily in that nature, especially as I've got older as well. I couldn't think anything worse than 16-man dorm room and stuff like I have done before.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine you doing that. But,
Yeah.
So what was it? What was the what were you like at school in terms of like were you into? I know you're a big rugby fan. Were you heavily into the teams then? And is that kind of how you found your path into what you're doing now, or like what was your sort of?
That would have been the introduction in. I think I was never like an amazingly gifted sportsman. I was quite big for my age and then quite fast. So with average kind of actual skills, you could, especially when you're growing up, you can actually do it okay in most kind of stuff. But I played a range, but I was never particularly, anything above kind of your average good player or whatever in most stuff. Rugby was the one I was probably the best at, definitely the one I enjoyed the most. And that kind of then started to spiral things in terms of going down this direction. Like in my head, ideally, I wanted to just play rugby professionally. I wasn't really good enough. I realized that, it wasn't like borderline. I just definitely wasn't good enough. So I then just thought maybe going down the coaching route. That led me to think, going to rugby coach and that side of things. And that's why I did, quite a few little either part-time jobs or internships and stuff in more coaching side of things. Actually, Ivan, I went out to Australia. That's what I was saying. I think I touched on before. I went out to Brisbane for a little while and coached at a school out there, rugby. But then basically went on to uni to do sports coaching. And then when I was there, I kind of started to make the switch with like my love of training was increasing. Realized I was enjoying working with people, but the nature of the coaching maybe wasn't quite aligned with what I wanted to do.
Just on that topic of coaching, like you're coaching teams, right? So I'm assuming like how many people would there be? 15 people at once?
Yeah, so on the pitch, but I guess with a rugby team, it'd have been maybe like near 25-ish, something like that.
So how are you approaching your coaching style when you're kind of speaking to groups of people, and how are you moving the needle forward there?
I guess at the very beginning, this was like when I first got into coaching, so I probably would look back now and cringe at some of the stuff I was doing, but I think the things that would still be important, whether it's one-to-one or as a group, was just like getting a good relationship. So getting that level of like respect, but also that they feel that they could, relate to you, but and also just communicate with you. But I think especially because I was working more with younger kids, like up to about 16, probably at that age. And so a lot of it to us was just like shepherding, behavioral management and all that kind of side of things. And I think that's where I then started wanting to move more into maybe the fitness side of things, where you were working with smaller numbers as well. Because a lot of people in my degree went on to do PE teaching and that kind of stuff. And from doing a few kind of work experience things, I realized that just wasn't what I wanted to do, because it was so much around just behavior management rather than the actual core topic itself. That I realized that that just didn't interest me really.
You're around like a lot of top athletes, top teams. Like, what were you noticing in their coaching that was really good? Like, what were some commonalities that you picked up that they can inspire like groups of people all at once?
Yeah, I think there's the inspiring side, or just the good coaches were the ones who could command the attention of the room. Obviously, like even if you're in like a professional sports environment, like say a football, rugby team, you've maybe got like 30 young guys in there. They're all going to want to like chat, make jokes, not listen. Like, it's not that different to when you've been at school really. And so it's being able to show that what you're presenting or talking about is worth listening to, making it engaging. And that's probably actually where I saw that the best coaches I watched were the ones that weren't necessarily delivering anything that was actually any better on paper, or at least I couldn't tell that was any better, but it was that they were getting the players to buy into what they were doing. They're getting excited about it, that kind of culture of it being cool to work hard, those kind of things. And I would say the same, it's just the same as teaching in a non-sports related thing. It's getting that buy-in and making people connect in what they're doing with their why, or why, as in you want to turn up to win, or whatever it is there.
Did you find in that specific environment that the group as a whole would sort of work better and achieve things better versus just each player trying to do their own thing individually? But did you find that when the cohesion in the group was good, the success rate of the team was also good?
Yeah, I think overall for sure. I think I'm not sure if I could really remember back to like correlating it with actual wins, but I know when I think of like the cohesion of the group as a whole, how well the group is just interacting, I guess like the spirit, and I guess that translates into effort, and which you'd hope then does translate into wins. But I know I was at Edinburgh Rugby for a little while, and within that time there was I think there was two big changes in terms of the strength and conditioning department. So I saw two different leads, but also just some rejigging of who was in charge. And at one point there was a lot of people were more onto their own programs. People were split up a lot more, and when this is more just in terms of the gym stuff. And a new coach came in, and although I think sometimes what was being done on paper was, like I said before, either no better, or potentially I think you could even argue that the other stuff on paper would have maybe made more sense at times. There was much more of a kind of group all going through things at a set time. It felt like, almost looking back now, not that the sessions were the same, but the feel that you get that I've seen in CrossFit gyms, where you're getting these big classes who are all, the weights they use and whatever are relative to themselves. There's this community feel, or you feel like everyone's moving through the same workout, and the energy was so much more improving. I feel like the buy-in from the players was way higher than, for sure.
Like having your own journey, but doing it together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the massive thing. And obviously there needs to be, like, the weight on the bar needs to be in line with you, your goals, your strength levels, where you're at. But having those other people on that collective strive for self-improvement, or to win at the weekend, or whatever it is, just helps push you on. And we know that, if you're around like-minded people who are pushing hard, your standards increase. And over time, that's only going to push you on.
Yeah, there's a lot of research in that. It's really cool. It's very interesting.
How do you how did you find so you always think of like sports teams, you think of like banter, and you think of like the locker room vibe. But how did like almost like the shit talking improve things, or was there an element of like giving harsh feedback, or giving it to people and then taking it well and moving it forward, or did it cause like fractures in in the environment. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm a lot of what I would answer from here would be from probably me observing the other coaches when I was, say doing internships, because I think a lot of the actual coaching I was doing was with like age group level stuff. So it wasn't quite the same as maybe like what you're thinking there. But from what I was able to observe and what I've read on and heard from successful coaches, the ability to maybe pass on that feedback in different way depending on the person. Because some people we know, and we've experienced this with clients as well. If something's not gone well, or let's just put it in sporting context, like they're playing badly or something, some will react really well to just being from the coach or potentially like a more senior player and the piss taken out of them, or being highlighted in front of the group. Whereas other people that completely crush them, and that they maybe just need to either be pulled to the side for a chat or just be given a pat on the back and kind of like, no, are you okay, kind of thing. And so it's this pushing and pulling where there isn't really a right or wrong across the board, but it's just being able to find good using the right thing at the right time for the right people. I know I've read and listened to a lot about Eddie Jones, who's the England rugby head coach at the moment. And something I've picked up from hearing a lot of different players talk about him is his ability to do that, where it's some people need the kick up the arse to really fire them up, whereas he's really good from what I've heard of then spotting the other players who actually might just need just to pull one side for a coffee and just ask him how he is to then get the best out of him. So I think it's balancing that and making the use of banter with some people a good time, but then also maybe just putting the arm around someone else at the other time.
Just like shifting gears back to like you growing up, how are you with regards to like body image and your own sort of physique? Did you have any body image issues growing up? Did you feel like you had any sort of spark to go into fitness because of that, or was it always, do you think, performance and sport related?
I would say in terms of body image issues, it wasn't massive or anything that I would have thought beyond maybe like the norm. Like I thought it would, always thought it'd be cool just to have abs. And then, you look at, say, for me, it'd be more like rugby players and things like that. And you're like, oh, it'd be great to be big, to be, have a big muscle. But it wasn't a massive thing. For me, it started more from a performance side of things. I think I spoke about before, I didn't get in past a rugby trial one time. And I was this height, so I'm like just under 5'10", but I was this height at 13, which is, although not massive for a man, like it's quite big for a 13-year-old. And I went to these trials and there was like 50 kids there, and I think they were picking like 7 or 8, but I was like one of the smallest people there, which to me was like quite a shock, having normally being big. And I remember just complaining about it, using it as an excuse or whatever. My mate's dad was like, well, what are you going to do about it, kind of thing. So then that's when I started doing like press ups in the room, and that's how it started. But I think very much at the beginning, it was with the mind of like, oh, rugby. As I grew up, I think, although maybe not conscious at the time, it was like I was in the gym, but not the connection to rugby was getting weaker, and just the love of just doing it because I like doing it and because I want to look better as well was definitely a factor in there. Then started to just shift the balance the other way.
Did you find when you started switching towards that body composition focus that you became more conscious of that, or did you feel like it was just something you already enjoyed and you kind of skipped past that phase of being comfortable in your own skin?
I think that when it shifted more to just training because I wanted to train and look good, my focus would have definitely shifted more to then how I was looking. I would have been aware of it before for sure, but I think that's when I'd have been more aware of like wanting to go low carb to try and get abs or whatever, and then you start looking for these tricks and things or whatever. But I would actually say that in terms of body image, I think it was definitely on the radar, but not massively, because I always had these kind of performance things. Even when I went into the more training side of things, I went down the S&C route a bit more initially. So again, I went into more Olympic lifting. So again, it was like performance. When I then started to shift towards more body composition stuff in my own training, but also in how I was training clients, I would say then my awareness of how I was looking, my body composition, maybe obviously, but increased a lot. And so although some people may have had body image issues at the start of their journey, which got them into training and then progressed on, I would say I actually got into training not not with anything beyond the norm. And then probably when I shifted more into body composition stuff, I probably had more of that awareness / issues at that point. And then I'd say I'm past that and in a good place now, but I actually probably had that in like the middle of my journey rather than at the start, which a lot of people would have probably.
Yeah.
Curse of lifting, right? You start training and you're forever small.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
The day you start training.
I know. When you think you're massive at 18 and then you suddenly get to like 28 and you think you're the skinniest guy ever, aren't you?
What was it that allowed you to get into that good place again? What do you think was a shift for you to now feel like you're completely comfortable?
I would say it was, again, the shift back to performance, to be honest. I think I had this like performance thing where, again, it wasn't like the best focus always. It was, a lot of it was on numbers. I think I wrapped up a bit of like how worthy of a lifter I was in, say, the amount I could back squat and things like that. So I don't think it was always like perfect, but it was always on that performance side of things. It then shifted to how I was looking, how much muscle I had, especially how much body fat I had. I think how lean you are was like a big thing. And then what pulled me out of that was then just shifting back towards performance again. And I'm in a balance now, because I'm still very aware of my body composition, trying to control that to how I want it to be. But the shift back from just purely what I was looking like and the number on the scale to then more towards, say, the logbook and getting excited for sessions because I wanted to actually lift and it was fun just working hard rather than training to get this result was massive in terms of getting me out of that hole I kind of dug for myself.
Yeah. Just switching on to you've into your fitness career and how you've been in the industry for now over 10 years. What's one thing you wish you knew at the beginning of your career?
I think I wish I knew that there just wasn't a day or a job or an amount of clients or a result that was just going to fix things and just give you this career you wanted. I definitely feel like when I started, I was just trying to get a job that I was like, this will just be the job that will get me what I want, or the career. Then it probably shifted to a certain amount of clients or a certain amount of income. And then again, I probably went back to certain, all right, I finally got this job, or I was just waiting for this moment or this one switch or change that was like, okay, I'm finally on a ladder, I'm finally in a good place. Because I think with the fitness industry, there isn't just like this clear ladder. I assume with some other jobs, like I don't know whether you're going to accountancy or something like that, there's probably is just like these levels that you just kind of go through. The fitness industry is so kind of spread out and dotted all over the place. There isn't like this clear, and I just thought, we kept chasing these things just to be like, all right, now I finally made it. But as I've kind of realized I don't think you ever really feel like that or get that necessarily. And it's just you're just constantly building. And as long as you're building on what you've got in terms of your experience, your knowledge, then it's almost like that saying, like you're just in the journey. There isn't really a destination of it necessarily. And so it's just I wish I just told myself, stop chasing this destination and just enjoy the process of just kind of getting better.
Yeah. It's an industry that's booming right now. What advice would you give to people who are considering it as a career? Would it be any different to that, or?
Yeah, I would say that the two things I would say is, one, make sure you really love it and you want to live this, because I think there is one thing, having a gym membership, love going to the gym, go 3-4 times a week, you really enjoy your sessions, that's brilliant. But there's a very different thing to then making it your job. And then it's not like, I want to go 3 or 4 times a week. It's like you have to go probably 6 days a week. And you're going to have to work your ass off to then to actually put food on the table, pay your bills, etc., etc. And it can be a great job. It's very rewarding. You get to work with people. I think it can be really good if that's what you want. But doing it as a job, and when there's pressure, obviously, to earn money from it as well, is very different to just a hobby. I like to watch Netflix an hour a night. Doesn't mean I then want to become like a Netflix whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's very.
How do you know that you really love it though? Because that's a really tough one to decipher.
I think I don't think I've got 100% the answer there, but I think it comes down to what's occupying your thoughts and your time outside of, say, those 4 sessions a week that you're just doing for yourself. do you have this thirst for knowledge to keep learning more around it as well? Because if you just enjoy going in, having your me time, putting your playlist on, whatever, that may be just what you enjoy and just doing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, if you're going to make a career and be a good trainer, get results to your clients, be able to progress, build a business, like it's a competitive environment, you're going to need to have a strong, one pool of experience that will come with time, but also wealth of knowledge as well. And so spent the best trainers I've met, and you two definitely fall into this category, have gone out and just learned way around the topic of all these different areas, and spent loads of time over the years reading, listening, actually getting practical experience, but just gaining this experience in all these different areas. And like your level 3 certification isn't going to give you that. It gives you the right to get insured, but the knowledge to be a good trainer, you really have to be passionate about it. And I know I was doing however many sessions a week, but I'd also be doing CPD every day. I still do, and it doesn't have to be really formal, but whether it's podcasts, you're reading articles, having discussions with other good trainers. And that's something across the years and the trainers I've worked with, it's kind of been quite a big differentiating factor in who has been good and who might be great people, but I wouldn't really recommend as trainers. And so I think if you're just doing your 4 sessions a week, or wherever you train, enjoy them, that's brilliant. You obviously enjoy the gym. That's a great thing to have in your life. If you want it to then become a career, I think you need to be driven to keep working outside those sessions, to have that thirst for knowledge, to keep absorbing more and more on those areas.
You think it gets murky because when you're doing these sessions and you're seeing results in yourself and you're reading around the subject at the time, you think almost it should be a career. Does that make sense? Like you can very easily blur those boundaries.
I think you go.
I'll just real quick, Phil. I was going to say it is a hard question to answer. Like, how do you know it's your calling? Yeah. I think a really good way to maybe get an idea of it is if all your finances were covered and you didn't have to worry about money or what have you, would you still be coaching people? Would you still want to be helping people, regardless, in whatever fashion that may be for you? I think that's a pretty good question to ask yourself. Because I know if that happened to me, I'll still be doing the same thing that I'm doing day to day. Because again, the way I see it, it's not a job, right? It's just something. I feel this is something that I just need to do with my life, and just learn and educate and do all those things. Not so I can one up other coaches and be like, look at me, look at all the stuff that I'm learning and you're not. No, I just do it because I really, really love doing it. I would do it even if I won the lottery tomorrow and I didn't have to pay a cent for my mortgage or whatever it is. I'd still be coaching or educating in some capacity, So I think that's probably a really good question to ask. Anyone who's listening to this who thinks that they are wanting it to be a career, and you also need to accept that, training yourself and seeing results for yourself is very, very different to coaching other people, because you also need to then take on other people's, or you have to, again, we've all been a part of this, we pretty much become therapists as well with clients, and that's sort of what spurred me to go down the whole psychology mindset path years ago. And if you're not willing to do that, and I know a lot of coaches, they freak out because of that, or it gets too much. They can't handle that side of things. But that's also what comes with territory of actually helping people and actually helping them become the best version of themselves. It's not easy, that's you have to be able to accept the hard that also comes with the great. And I think that's when you know that you really want to be doing coaching or whatever purpose that you think you want to be doing.
I think a big thing that's under, or maybe just not talked about enough, or people don't think about enough, is just going and trying something but for free. If you've done, go along and do some work experience and see what it's actually like, because you get this one view of it from social media where it looks amazing, you're just getting a pump all day and then you're training a few clients, they're all getting amazing results. Reality is that's not a day in the life of those kind of jobs. And so I remember when I was about 16, I did work experience actually with some personal trainers, and not because I wanted to do it, it's because I can't remember what I was going to do. My one fell through, so I just went along with my mate to do his one, and we spent the week just cleaning exercise bikes and just doing it. And I remember just coming back to my mum, was like, I'm never working in a gym, that's the most boring thing ever. But as I then got my interest for that kind of stuff grew over time, I then started to come back to the idea of it and being like, actually, if I'm working with clients, maybe it will be a bit more exciting. But following from that, I did loads of work experience. I did and I was referring to the Edinburgh rugby stuff I did during my masters. I did a year of full time working there for free. I didn't get paid anything for that. I did a few others. Like I did one with Scottish Rugby, with Institute of Sport. Again, you're turning up, and they're not sociable hours. You're turning up at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. You're doing this stuff. A lot of it's not glamorous if you're the work experience person. I know with some of the rugby stuff, they were doing hydration testing. So I was just testing the players' piss, like how hydrated it was. Like that's not like glamorous or like cool stuff you want to do. I was carrying water bottles. Yeah. That was how I tested how hydrated it was. But like a lot of that stuff's like that's not glamorous, is it? And then like even if you just do it in a gym setting, you're probably going to shadow a trainer. It's not like it's just this really exciting stuff on paper, but that's where you see what it's really like. That's where you see whether learning about this stuff does interest you, or you're only really there just because you want people to pat you on the back. Oh, thanks so much, you changed my life. Like that's a byproduct of it. You need to love the process of it, and it probably applies to all jobs. I think you said, Akash, about does a work experience with some law firms, and you realized the traveling around was good, but the actual work wasn't necessarily wanting to do. Like without experiencing that, how do you know? All you see is people earning loads of money in smart suits, isn't it?
Yeah. On that topic, like what are you most curious and interested about outside of fitness?
I think I like sports. That's probably the other thing that I would look at the most. I love the whole, and this, I know, Ivan, you kind of touched on this before about like the whole athlete kind of lifestyle. You said you love living as an athlete, and you've kind of created your life as that.
Well, in my head.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. We all.
That's what matters, though.
I love the notion of that stuff. Like, and even, I mean, to me, I think it's outside. It's still within kind of the fitness realm. But even just reading about just other people who are pursuing other, I guess, fitness goals. But I really like, say, Alex Viada, who does, combines long endurance events with being, like really strong as a powerlifter as well. I know that probably also falls in the realm of kind of fitness, but that kind of stuff's very different to what we're doing often with with most of the clients that we're working with. So if I'm just like, say, reading for fun or anything like that, it's often that kind of thing. But otherwise, sport would be kind of like
that's how you know.
Yeah.
There is no side hobby.
If it's not fitness, then it's sport or fitness.
Yeah.
So obviously, you've been around the block in the fitness world for 10 years. You've kind of seen and done everything, right? Everything there is to it. What do you think the biggest failure has been across that 10-year span?
Failure of myself, do you think? Or
for yourself.
It's a weird one because there's things that I think I didn't do well or right, but it's almost kind of knocked me on to the next thing. And so even if they felt like a failure at the time,
I think what felt at the time,
I think basically I went out to Dubai to start working, and this was definitely a time when I felt that I'd finally got myself onto the career ladder that I was finally after, and like I had some more direction. So I moved my life out there basically to pursue that, and I kind of thought that was me ticked off. All right, I can obviously work hard, but I've now got this progression. So it was like the job I felt like I was waiting for up to that point. And it was a brilliant experience, and looking back, it really has shaped or pushed me in the right direction for where I've gone on to now. So I think it's probably one of the most invaluable experiences I've had in my life, to be honest. One, moving away, I was forced to do long distance with like my now wife for about 5 months, all of that stuff, as well as even just like the actual direct work stuff. But I think it was about 9 months in, it just became very clear to me that it just wasn't the right fit for me. How I wanted to do things, my lifestyle moving forward, and it just wasn't compatible with where I wanted to go and kind of how I wanted to do things. So I chose to leave that. And then we came back to the UK. Like I think a lot of people move to Dubai or something like that and then try and find a job because they want to live in Dubai. I wanted to do this job, and the fact it was in Dubai, I just kind of moved there as a byproduct. So when the job was gone, we decided to move back, and to me, that felt like a huge failing for me. It felt like I'd actually, to get that job, given up. I was doing quite well on my own as a trainer, so I'd given up a job that I was enjoying, a good client base. I took a significant, I think about a 30% pay cut to go out there. So then I had I felt like I'd sacrificed a lot to do this. It was almost like one step back to then hopefully make several steps forward. So it kind of felt like I'd thrown a lot away. Also, I think I just made this big move, and ultimately, well, on paper, it just hadn't worked out as I planned. So that definitely was probably the biggest failure that I felt. But like I said, as soon as I then got off my feet and everything moved in the right direction again, I was a way better trainer. I'd had way more life experience. And it opened my eyes completely to way more. So although it's my biggest failure on paper, I think it's one of the things in my life I definitely wouldn't want to change or have done any differently.
How was it like working in Dubai? And not necessarily in the industry, but just in general, like how did you find working in Dubai, working in a completely different continent?
I mean, overall it was good. I think it's a cool place for sure. I think I got there in probably about Mayish time, and it was getting hot. So obviously, like, come from England, used to wearing a jumper all year round. I think I got there and it was like 10 at night. It was like still 32 degrees or something like that. So it was a bit of a shock from that perspective. But no, it was nice. I mean, to be honest, the job I was doing was very full on. So there was times when, wherever you PT in the world, you get there in the dark and you leave in the dark. So there's only kind of so much you see for a lot of it. But no, yeah, it was a great experience to see some other stuff. I was there during Ramadan, which was massive. Opened my eyes massively. As although as much as if you live kind of near London, you do see other cultures and things. It was, I'm like a white guy just from, I went to school in Surrey, stuff like that. There's only kind of so much you can really see and experience living that lifestyle. So just having your eyes open to that kind of stuff was definitely good in terms of a life experience perspective as well, for sure.
Good to reflect back on your 30 years on this earth. Who have been your three most influential people? I've got to say first of all, my wife, then have a nice season.
Yeah, real quick, Phil. I was going to ask, how did you two meet? Like, what's your story with her?
Oh, so I went to uni, and we were basically in halls. It was like these long corridors of probably 13 doors or something. And I remember I went a year after most of my mates, because I took a year out before, and everyone was kind of saying, you might meet like one or two people in your halls who are like, well, all right, but you'll probably just have to make proper friends. Basically, it was like a line of about 13 of us who were all just like from day one, all really good mates. And she was like 2 doors down from me basically on there. So yeah, I think second day of uni, she turned up. I was already there, and yeah, just hit it off. I kind of just thought, this Irish girl's quite fit.
Yeah.
And then
I'll play rugby.
Yeah. Done push-ups in my room before coming out for breakfast. So yeah, we met, and then just after Christmas, kind of got together. So.
Oh wow! So literally like first time uni, and you've been together since.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been together in just for over 10 years now. Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, I mean, she's obviously been an influential one, just because she's been such a big part of things. But she's been massive also, I think, in terms of keeping me away from like redlining and burning out, for sure. She balances me out a lot. I think part of the reason why, just come back to when I was in Dubai, part of the reason why it kind of broke down or wasn't a good fit in the end was I had just redlined. I'd just gone all out. But basically I lived with her from the day I met her, right? Because we were in halls at uni. And so apart from those 5 months in Dubai, I've always lived with her. And I went out there, she wasn't there. And
what do I do?
I just went 100% into work mode. And so I was just like never turning off. And I think that actually, on reflection, probably played a massive part, because I was just going too hard. And even just at weekends, there was never a point where I was just like relaxing. And I did like my first proper hard diet at that point as well. Like physically and mentally, I was just gone. And yeah, not having her just to like, it's not even like a conscious thing, but I think just having her around, like even in the evenings, I would just like say, I wouldn't flip the telly on, but if she's here, we might watch Netflix together or something like that. And it just helps to balance me out. So, you know, I think maybe I wouldn't be here in the fitness industry if I hadn't met her, because I would have just, you know, go. And then there's only so long you can do that for before you just either lose the love for it or just, it's just not sustainable. So yeah, I'd say she'd definitely be a big one.
Big brownie points there.
Yeah, exactly. I have to thought and make sure she listens to this one. I think obviously like the other people in a similar respect would be like family, like my mum, dad, brother. They've been very supportive actually, and that's something that I feel like when I have made these big steps, whether it has been deciding to then go down the PT route, become self-employed, then take the move to Dubai, likewise come back from there, shift online, these things that might not seem massive now, but when you're in the moment, they're quite big and kind of life-changing things, or feel like at the time. They've always kind of been there support, and it's almost allowed me to make these jumps without worrying about they're a bit like being a bit of a safety net, I guess. Like when I went out to Dubai, I kind of, as much as I was nervous about it, and it was a big change, I knew that if it all went wrong, they were there kind of thing. And ultimately, when I did move back, we didn't really know where we were going to go. We ended up moving to Belfast, but we had a 2-month period between there where we were kind of figuring out what we wanted to do. I went back and lived with them for a couple of months, which was great actually, just to get my head straight again. And so yeah, having them there has been massive. And then number 3, this is probably a hard one to be honest, but I'd say there's been a few people who have just maybe just inspired me at each stage, or just made me help me just push on. I think like when I think back to the guys who did my PT qualification, there was 2 guys who kind of ran it. I don't even know, looking back now, if they were amazing trainers or not. They may well have been, but my knowledge was so bad, I probably didn't even know. But one thing they did do was just light this fire in me and really make me want it, make me think it was just like accelerate my love for training and for training people, and just made me want to be better. And even just like a level of accountability, because I was like, these guys are just... I just wanted to kind of replicate them. And so it was all even like, even if they weren't there, it was like your standards rise because you've just seen people do it operating at a higher level. I did that in the summer of my second year of uni, and up to that point I was kind of like dossing uni a bit. I'd kind of gone just apart, like just I thought I'd have a good time and just do the uni experience. And like my attendance wasn't awful, it wasn't brilliant. I did that in the summer, second year. And then third year of uni, I don't think I missed any lectures. I was just on it. I was like, I felt like I went from just like pure party student life to like, still was going out and had fun as a student, but it was like suddenly became like, all right, I'm here for uni as well. And then like I finished that year with a first. So it was like, and that was almost like things started to spiral there. I went on to a master's and things like that. And it all came from those 2 guys who just kind of lit the fire for training and being a coach. But then like that just spread out to all areas of my life, because I just was like, I want to be this person who's on it. I want to be like smashing it. And then, you know, obviously you eat better, you do, everything else gets better. Like we've said, you know, I guess that really is how the physical is the vehicle for me, and how them getting me excited for kind of this industry just seeped into just kind of wanting to take control of everything.
What do they do to fire you up so much?
I think they showed that, I think it was maybe even just provided some role models, maybe even just like it was just, they were really knowledgeable. They, you know, obviously like had good physiques. They were like eating well. Any question you answered, they just seemed to have this answer for. And I just kind of almost thought like, whoa, these guys are like amazing. It was almost like, that's kind of how I want to be, or how I want to do things. They had like a couple of masters, they were studying for more. Like they obviously had quite a growth mindset and were striving to become like these experts in these different fields. And again, some of the stuff they told me might have even been wrong. Like I don't even know, it was so long ago now, but they made me just obviously I thought fitness was cool to go on that course, but it really made me think, you know what, like this stuff is really cool, and this is the kind of life I want to live. And so as much as the actual content I think was good, it was more just, I think, just how maybe just engaged they made me with the course and with them.
The action.
Yeah.
They led by example. You know that quote, no one will ever remember what you had to say. They only remember how they made you feel. That's sort of like
it's exactly exact
personification of that, right? Like they could have been spouting the biggest nonsense, but the fact is they got you so lit up to want to coach and to want to be a better person in general that it didn't matter, right? It was that fire to be better that made you just want to go on and do the things that you did. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think how many people actually in day-to-day life, like we're obviously in this different kind of our own circle to a point, but how many of the average population like meet someone who does really care about their health, makes it a priority, isn't ashamed, or like, you know, some people will just kind of try and do it on the sly, but like how many people can just go out and just be comfortable with who they are and their actual priorities and things. And I think this is where we talk about like generational health and the domino effect that it can have. Like if you stand up and be a leader and you do what you want to do, as those people were doing, they inspired me. And then if you think of the knock-on effect that I've had on other people, just, you know, the amount of clients I've worked with in person, but then also online over the years, it's almost like a family tree. You can like sync that back. Like, I don't think everyone in the class would have done the same, but if those two people were teaching, there's about 15 of us, if we all qualified and we all spread that across, like we said, that's how you end up transforming the world. It's that domino effect throughout all the people you meet. So hopefully the people that we're coaching have a positive impact on their families, the people in their workplace, even if it is just walking a bit more, drinking a bit more water, whatever it is. And that stuff keeps trickling down. And that's what we say, you know, that's how the world will transform.
Big.
Yeah.
So good.
Let's finish up on some quick rapid fires. So you're a massive podcaster, so I always wonder both of you are actually, to be fair, always wonder how many you crank through in a week. What's your favorite podcast? Outside of this one, of course.
So this one, okay, so I'll give you three here. For non-fitness, I do BBC Rugby Union podcast.
Okay, non-fitness,
yeah, that's yeah. Non-fitness. For some fitness related good educational stuff, I think Sigma Nutrition is very good. You know, they get proper experts on. And then for a light-hearted fitness one, there's Bodybuilding and Bollocks is probably my favorite one, just to kind of chill out to. Yeah.
Favorite book you've read in the last year or listened to?
I'm just thinking, have I even read a book in the last year?
Fitness 101.
You know what I was actually reading was
spread out over across the last couple of years, because I know you're on more podcasts.
Yeah, no, there was one I actually did read it was on running though. It was on like running efficiency. It was basically combining the science, and then also in the running community, there's like the scientists. Oh, I guess like with the fitness industry, it's like the bros and then the scientists, and it was kind of balancing that up. But to be honest, most of the books I've actually read have been autobiographies. So I was just looking at, I finished one by James Haskell. So if you're into rugby, actually, or even if you're not, it's actually quite a good read. It's called What a Flanker, and it's quite a light-hearted one. Not much about stuff on the pitch, but a lot of the kind of stories behind that. So yeah, that's a good read.
Who's your dream podcast guest?
I'm going to say Joe Bennett, the hypertrophy coach. That may be the only way I can meet him, unless I go out and train with him in Florida at some point.
I'll have to reach out to him and get him on.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any more from you, Ivan? Any more you want to dig into with that, Ed?
Favorite food, regardless of calories, macros, etc. Death row meal. What would be your death row meal?
I'm going to go double bacon cheeseburger, barbecue sauce, with sweet potato fries.
Yeah. Good choice.
There you go.
That's it. Yeah.
Go on.
No, that was it. That was really it.
Oh, I had one question actually. What do you listen to when you train? I'm always curious about this for you.
I've got I've got my own little Spotify playlist of things I pull, but it's mainly kind of hip hop and grime kind of
Really?
stuff. Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
hip hop and grime guy. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's not what you'd expect looking at me, but then I think kind of what would as a posh white guy, I'd have to be listening to like James Blunt or something, wouldn't I? So no, I go
Taylor Swift.
yeah, no, I go like hip hop stuff for like the walk to the gym and then training. And I think I was telling Ivan this the other week, and then I flick onto my country playlist for the walk home, just to get that parasympathetic going.
Yeah, that's how I knew that. Yeah.
Fantastic. There you go. A bit more into Mr. Pilkington.